Are your legs feeling so tight? Do your psoas and your hamstrings need a little extra attention? Well, today's class is just for you. Hey friends, it's Kait here. Thanks so much for joining me. I have got a short, lovely stretch that's all about our hips and our legs. I know our psoas, the front of our hips, and our hamstrings, the back of our legs, can be a big problem spot for a lot of us. This is a short, lovely little stretching routine that is sure to help lengthen and stretch your body. Roll out your mat. Let's get started. Let's just start standing. Lift up and out of the waist. Almost imagine I'm pulling your ears up to the sky. Take a nice big breath. As you exhale, dip your chin to chest, bend your knees, and start to roll into a forward fold. Now go ahead and keep your knees bent deeply and pause. Nod the head yes, shake it no, and then start to swivel the hips right and left. That can be a little sway or a big sway. And then pause center, bend your knees deeply, maybe begin to straighten the legs. And if you're not as low as I am, you're a little higher, you've got your hands on your shins or your thighs, that's okay too. What I want you to think about are your sitting bones. When I bend my knees, it's like I'm tucking my tail or trying to point my sitting bones to the ground. When I straighten my legs or go as straight as they can, I think about pointing my sitting bones up to the sky. I round and bend. I straighten and lift. Round and bend. Straighten and lift. Last one, bend and pause, and slowly roll yourself all the way up to standing. We're going to wake our hips up a little bit. I'm going to turn to face you. I want you to pick up a knee and circle it around. Both sides, just moving in our ball and socket joint, as big or small, as fast or slow, as whatever feels good. And then take it in the opposite direction, out to in, and that might feel a little wonky. That's okay. We don't have to be perfect. If you kind of fall over, know that I have way more often than you ever will. And then let's pause with our feet together. I'll turn this way again. Reach your fingertips high. Maybe take your sternum with you, then flip the palms again, chin to chest, bend the knees. Drop into your forward fold once more, just like we did a moment ago. Deeply bend the knees. This time, try to straighten the legs and pause. Notice if you can almost tip lightly into your toes. Again, if our weight's a little higher, we've got our hands on our legs or somewhere on our shins or thighs, that's okay. But for me, if I lean a little bit forward and try to stick my tushy up to the sky, I start to get a deeper stretch through the back of my legs. Everybody's different. If you feel this more, maybe through your calves or your low back, that's okay. You're not doing it wrong. We're just all a little different. And then eventually pause, tuck the tail round, slowly roll yourself once more all the way up to standing. Now from here, let's take a small lunge. I'll take my left foot forward, my right foot back, and pause. Go ahead and put a nice easy bend in both knees, hands to our hips, start to lift out of your waist. Now I want you to think about squeezing where your thigh and your glute connect, or what I call our thut. Squeeze your thut tightly and almost try to push the front of your hip forward. It's almost like someone's hands on the back of your tushy trying to push it forward. You might start to feel a little deeper stretch through the front of our psoas, through the front of our hips. 3 times, I want you to see if you can straighten the leg, push the heel down to the ground, and then bend the knee once more. Squeeze the thut as you do so. Straighten the leg, try to push the heel towards the floor, bend the knee, squeeze your thut. One more time, straighten, bend and pause, almost squeezing your thighs together, lift out of the waist, really squeeze your thigh butt connection point so we can release and open up through the front of our psoas. We'll take a little side body stretch here. Your left hand can go on top of your thigh, onto your left hip, or you could even place your hand lightly on the inner portion of your left inner thigh. Either way, you'll reach your right hand high and take a little stretch over. Now you might really feel that through your side body, but again, the more I squeeze where my thigh and my glute connect and try to push the front of my right hip forward, the deeper of a stretch I personally feel through the psoas there. Slowly let that go. Step both feet together, wiggle, shake anything out, and we'll take our opposite foot behind us. Now again, we start with an easy, soft bend in both knees. We want to lift out of the waist, activate our core, even though this is about stretching. Start to squeeze your thud on your left side. Just like we did on the other side, it's like someone's hands almost pushing the front of your left hip forward so we can deeply open up through the front of your left psoas. 3 times, push the heel down to the ground, bend the knee. Push the heel down to the ground, bend the knee. 1 more time, push it down, bend and pause, lift out of the waist, squeeze your thud. We'll take that side body stretch again. Hand could be on the hip, on the top of the thigh, or to your right inner thigh as you lift your left hand up. I push into my right inner thigh as I take my side stretch over. I'm thinking about growing long from my left hip through my side body at my fingers, and I'm still squeezing my thigh. I'm still opening up through the front of my left hip. Let that go. Wiggle anything out. Step the feet together. Give yourself a little shake, a little wiggle. 1 more time, both hands lift nice and high. Exhale, chin to chest, bend the knees, roll down. Now, even if you can touch the floor for this one, I want our hands either to our shins or to our thighs. Push your head, your chest away. The idea here is to have a long, flat back. We're not worrying about the legs at the moment. Send your sitting bones back, pull the navel to spine, and from here, take a big inhale. As you exhale, straighten your right leg, maybe bend the left leg a little bit deeper. It might feel better to place both hands on your bent leg. For me, that's my left thigh. Not only am I straightening my right leg, I'm almost thinking about lifting my right sitting bone up to the sky so I get a great big stretch through the back of my right leg. Take a big inhale, big breath out. Bend both knees. Maybe take both hands over to your opposite leg as you start to straighten the left. Push, push, push the hip back. Almost tip your left booty up to the sky. Big inhale. Big breath out. Bend both knees. Drop into a forward fold once more. Take a sway of the hips. Nod the head a little yes and no. And come on down to a seat on your mat. Let's simply start by straightening our legs out to about hip distance. If you can fully straighten, that's awesome. If there's a bend in the knee, not the end of the world, but try to flex the feet, lift out of the waist. I'm trying to pull the toes up towards my kneecaps. Now I have some hyperextended legs, so my heels are lifting away from the floor. You don't have to, but if you can support that in your body, that's okay. Lift out of the waist, reach your hands high. Now this is not about touching our toes. Do not worry about touching your toes. Instead, reach the fingertips up higher, wrap the ribs in, grow an inch taller, and try to hinge from the hips. Now pause. Look up at me if you're looking down. Do you see that I have a long, flat back? I am not rounding forward. Again, it's not about my toes. Instead, it's leaning forward. It's kind of making like a little triangle sort of shape with your body. I'm sticking my butt out, just kind of like we did in our forward fold a moment ago. Now, if you have the range of motion to reach your sternum a little further forward, as long as you're keeping the back flat and we're reaching our heart, our chest, through that space between our feet. Maybe lengthen a little bit more. 1 more big inhale. Now you can forward fold if you like. Slide your hands up to your thighs. Roll yourself up to a seat. Lie on your back. And pause. We are going to keep an imprinted spine. If you've done Pilates with me, you'll know what I'm talking about. If that's new to you, it means pressing your low back down into the ground. I don't want us to arch our back here at all. We're going to protect our lumbar spine by activating our tummy muscles. Pull your right knee into your chest and give it a hug or squeeze. Now, for some of us that have really tight psoas, it might be too much to straighten your left leg. Know that you can rebend it if you need to. Your foot also might hover away from the floor. If that's painful to do so, you could set a cushion down by your ankle or a yoga block so it has a little elevation. But from here, the more I start to pull my knee either towards my right armpit or into my chest, just depending on how my hip is feeling today, and the more I stretch my left foot away, it's almost like someone has my left ankle and they're pulling it away from my body as I pull my leg into my chest. And naturally, my left leg kind of floated away from the ground. There's nothing wrong with that. I can gently push the heel towards the mat or keep it up, just depending on how my inner thighs are feeling and how the front of my left psoas is feeling. For me right now, it feels really good just to lift it up and send that toe as far away as I possibly can. Take a big inhale. As you exhale, pull your left leg in, give it a hug as you either straighten the right leg down the mat or plant it on the floor, whatever we need to. And again, I'm going to begin by pulling the knee a little closer to the body as I actively stretch my right leg away. It's like my left knee and my right toe are trying to stretch as far away from one another as possible. The more I reach the right toe away, squeeze my thud on my right side, the more I feel the stretch the front of my right hip. One more big inhale. And then go ahead, bring your right leg back in. This will be a little bit different. We'll start with our left leg on the floor. You'll lift your right leg up, and I want you to externally rotate the leg. Now, depending on your own range of motion, we might need a strap here at some point, but I'm gonna hold underneath my knee and right above my ankle and lightly pull the leg a little bit closer. It's like I'm trying to bring my shin up to my chest. And again, I'm going to elongate the left leg. If you think about it, it's kind of like we're doing a pigeon on our back, stretching my left leg away and pulling my shin deeper and closer. Now, if there's any pain through our knee, of course, we can skip that. You could go back to a parallel leg, but taking that external rotation, we might feel it in a slightly different place. One more big inhale. Set your left foot down, unravel the right, pick up the left, take a little external rotation. I like to flex. I find I protect my ankle and I can focus more on that rotation through my thigh. And you might hug the leg a little closer to the body as you start to straighten your right leg away. We might notice one side feels totally different than the other. That is A-okay. You might really stretch your toe far, squeeze your thud, maybe push your right heel towards the ground as you hug your left shin into your body. One more big inhale. Let that go. Now bring both knees into your chest. Stretch your legs up to the sky. If we can, actively flex the feet. You can let your hands do wherever or go wherever feels best. Maybe let the legs come a little closer to the body. Just like when we were doing our seated forward fold, it's really not about your head coming close to your toes, or right now your toes coming close to your head, but stretching the feet further away, flexing them a little bit more. Take one more big inhale. If you want to, hug behind the legs and guide them a little closer without lifting your tailbone off the mat. Take one more big breath. Exhale, take it as deeply as you like, and then let it go. Feet about hip distance, hands open wide. Take a windshield wiper of your knees. Roll to one side, push yourself up to a seat. As always, give yourself a pat on the back. Thank yourself for doing something so good and just for you. I certainly hope you enjoyed our psoas and hamstring stretching, and I hope we feel so much better.